Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Roger Gilbert. I'm in the RongoRongoLive video studio, and as you can see behind me here, there's a little statue there, and that is a Rongo. Rongo is the Maori god of fertility, but RongoRongo comes from Polynesia, Easter Island, and it's one of the original languages developed independently of anything else. So it's great to use the word RongoRongo for our studio, which in essence means recite, declaim, or chant out. And we're interested here in dealing with issues of the day. And I'm very pleased to say that joining me in the studio today is ADM's President of Animal Nutrition for North America, Ryan Lane. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. Hello, everyone.
Yes. Ryan, Strive 35. What's that all about?
Yeah. So Strive 35 is ADM's ambitious plan to target what we can do with our energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, water use, and waste management. So that's kind of our corporate initiative that goes across all of our supply chains.
And what does that mean in terms of the industry or your customers, even your company? What specifically are you trying to achieve?
Yep. So when ADM approaches sustainability, we really want to bring a global perspective into the sustainability equation, right? We use a number of different targets that we're trying to address. So Strive 35, if we look at some of the metrics, and we can get into the details as it goes all the way down into feed and grain, but by 2035, we're looking for a 25% absolute reduction in our Scope 1 and 2 emissions. This is against our 2019 baseline, as well as a 25% absolute reduction in Scope 3 emissions, and this is against our 2021 baseline. We are committed to be 100% deforestation free by 2025, and this includes direct and indirect sourcing. We are also committed to working with Science-Based Target Initiative, and our aim here is to obtain approval of our climate targets, and we have global goals to limit. We have global goals to limit global warming, and we firmly believe that these measures in place will improve the environmental performance, and this also has other benefits as well, like improved efficiency for our partners and our customers, and provides a more circular business economy.
Just for explanation, you mentioned Scope 1, 2, and 3. Could you just briefly touch on what is the difference between Scope 1, 2, and 3, just so that our audience has a clearer understanding?
Yeah. So when we look at Scope 1, this is like the actual manufacturing of a product or a feed additive. That's within Scope 1. Within Scope 2, this is the energy that we purchase for that production. And then within Scope 3, it's everything else. You know, what are the components that go into the manufacturing? And then Scope 3 also looks at the effects of those products on animal production.
Yeah, that's quite clear. Thank you. So you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions 25%. What are you doing around energy and, more importantly, around water usage?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things that we've been doing, and these are efforts that we have been doing for a number of years. So it's more of a continuation, okay. Right? So there's a number of things that we've been doing to reduce our energy usage, where we've had a substantial impact. So these are additional goals to go to further improve. And on water, we're looking at our processes. How are we manufacturing? This could be downstream processing of those materials. And we're constantly investing in those new innovations to make the manufacturing and distribution of those products more efficient.
So within Scope 3, that's where a user, I think, uses your products. Are you sort of aimed at reducing their environmental impact or their contribution to global warming or gas emissions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when you look at when you look at the feed processing and the formulation side of the nutrition business, there's a number of different things that are going on within our industry. If we kind of zoom into the feed industry, right? They're the efforts that we're doing directly as an enterprise, but it's also working with our customers, and it's also working with our partners in terms of taking more of a harmonious approach, right? So ADM is fully committed to contributing to the global conversation through our collaborations with peer organizations, right? So just as an example of this, and this is looking at this holistically, where we can have an impact on our supply chains. We're an active member of the Sustainable Agriculture Initiative, the Responsible Meat Initiative, the Greener Cattle Initiative, and some other multi-stakeholder forums, right? And again, our intent with these groups is to take a harmonious approach, so all of the companies we can make an impactful progress, right? Or make impactful progress. That's on energy, on water use, greenhouse gas, and on waste emissions, right? But back to the first part of your questions, when you look at the different feed additives, right? In the scope 3, when we look at those feed additives, we want to make sure that it has an impact on the performance of the animal, right? And this has kind of two effects in terms of sustainability. The first is economic sustainability of the producer, right? In terms of keeping the nutrients within the animal. And if we can have the nutrients stay within the animal, we can make the animals more resistant to disease. We can optimize their feed to gain. We can also improve the viability of the young, focusing on that early life nutrition as well as the maternal nutrition. So that's the economic sustainability to the producer. But if we do that right, we also have impacts on the environmental sustainability, right? So different additives, just as examples, like a feed enzyme, right? So in the ration, there may be compounds where you can use an enzyme to open up that molecule to get more nutrition out of the ration. Because if the nutrients are not unlocked, as you know, they can go straight into the animal, and then it gets into the environment. So we do use feed additives when we're addressing both economic and environmental sustainability, because again, we do want the nutrients to stay within the animal and not go into the environment.
Yeah.
And if we're successful doing that, then we're better stewards to the environment.
Yeah. I can't understand really why enzymes aren't a critical part of all feed formulation, given the release or the breakdown of proteins to make them, particularly to make them more digestible, or other ingredients as well. So I think that's a strong message to get across, is the better usage or more holistic usage of enzymes. You mentioned earlier on about deforestation free. What's meant by that?
So we're looking to when we look at deforestation, that is when we look at our direct and indirect sourcing of different grains and oil seeds, right? So we're targeting areas that are known to be sustainable, and that's where we're targeting. So if you want to have short-term impacts to be more sustainable, you can source soy that's been procured in areas that are, deemed sustainable.
Okay. Is there any aspect that we've not covered of this this program, this Strive 35?
Yeah. So the one big area is ADM is very metric driven. So I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about life cycle assessments, because this is how we can really apply those metrics to show the tangible impacts that we're having on sustainability. So we leverage data to reduce and improve our environmental footprint. We joined the Global Feed LCA Institute, This is an independent organization that's developing a publicly available animal nutrition LCA database.
Okay.
And this database is designed to make meaningful assessments on all of our products across the supply chain. And when we look at life cycle analysis or LCA, I just want to remind everyone it's a tool, right? And it's a tool to help us quantify the environmental impacts. And when we look at that, we look at it in two phases. And we kind of talked about it a little bit on scope 1, 2, and 3. But the first phase of an LC analysis or an LCA methodology, it looks at the carbon footprint. Right? In the carbon footprint, this guides where we can have interventions to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions on the manufacturing and the distribution of the products.
Yeah.
The phase 2 assess whether a given product can help lower greenhouse gas emissions on the improvement of animal performance. Again, we talked about resilience, lowering the waste, etc. And the reason I want to highlight the LCA methodology, it's becoming more and more common for us to leverage this type of methodology in terms of establishing baselines as well as the improvements that we can make against those baselines.
Okay. You just reminded me there that, waste or a circular economy, we talk about that a lot. Waste or byproducts coming out of the system have to be disposed of. I think you've got somewhere in Strive 35 reference to landfill diversion rates or something similar. Is that taking care of the byproducts of the industry in a useful way? Is that what you're talking about there?
Yes, it's upcycling of nutrients, right? So if we're looking at a manufacturing of a product, let's say a given grain or an oilseed, what we do is we can fractionate out the different components to hit different customer needs, but sometimes there could be, components like fiber or components, other, complex carbohydrates, maybe even a little bit of protein that isn't necessarily needed for the main product. Well, that turns into a co-stream or a byproduct. And at ADM, we have been upcycling these byproducts for decades, feeding animals because all animals can leverage the nutrients a little bit differently. And ADM will encourage to upcycle some of these co-streams because, as you know, and I think you're leading me there, it does have a direct impact on the waste that's produced in some of our industries.
I think, coming to the end, I think I'd like to ask you a question about how is ADM getting these messages out to the general public? I mean, they're very exciting what you're achieving or what you're aiming to do in terms of making us more sustainable and more efficient, etc., and lowering those gas emissions particularly. But are we talking enough to consumers or the general population so that they understand what the livestock industry in particular is doing?
Yeah, I will say since the pandemic, the conversations have been ever increasing. All of the customers that I've engaged with, at least in North America, but also on a global level, it's becoming a part of the conversation. Europe, I think, was much more involved and, really started getting some of these metrics. And in the United States, it was more about packaging and some other areas of sustainability. But really, at the end of the day, here in the United States as well, sustainability has a greater social impact. And people are taking more of a responsibility to enhance sustainability in their communities, et cetera. So not only is ADM working with our partners and customers having these conversations, where our partners and customers are learning from us because sustainability is kind of a big word. Yeah. But if you take tangible approaches and you have the metrics, you make it much more meaningful and impactful. So we're very open. There's a lot of materials that you can find on ADM's website. I encourage everyone listening to the podcast, please go out there. We named a number of different initiatives. Look them up. There are people waking up every day thinking about this. And I do believe that the conversations, they will continue. And the more that people adopt some of these sustainability tools, including life cycle assessments, it's going to help all of our supply chain.
Yeah, that's great. Any final message?
The last message is, I mean, it's great to be in the industry, especially in animal nutrition, as well as on the food side. As a leader in nutrition, ADM is committed to serve the world's nutritional needs while reducing our environmental impacts. I mean, we wake up every day going to work, making sure the nutrition gets to where it's needed, to the people that need this nutrition, for the human side as well as their animals. And for me, it's a challenge of a lifetime. And I'm really happy to be a part of ADM where you can truly have an impact.
Well, Ron, I'm very pleased to hear you say that. And you're more than welcome to come back here and bring us up to date on how progress is being made over the next few years. But we are like-minded. We have a duty actually at this time to make sure that these messages are conveyed and understood, and that we all take note of what our scope 1, 2, and 3 commitments are, and that we get underway with trying to reduce everything that you've talked about today. But thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Okay. Goodbye for now. I'm leaving our viewers with a link to Ryan Lane's email address there. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to contact him. And if you want to contact us, of course, we're always here at the RongoRongoLive video studio. But thank you, everyone, for watching and participating. Bye for now.